All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you are doing well. Welcome to How to Convert Internet Leads. So, thanks for being on. Drop a comment. Let us know you're there. Good seeing everybody this morning. Maya, Brittany, Leo, Taishe, Vince, Sherry. Good morning. It's like Nettie's on. Maybe Mike too. Everybody on Facebook as well. Drop a comment. Let us know you're there. And appreciate y'all being on this morning. So we are going to dive in to converting internet leads. So I'm curious, who is currently working internet leads? Elise, good morning. Who is currently working internet leads? Who has worked internet leads in the past? Who has had success with internet leads? Who maybe stopped internet leads because they weren't getting in return on the money they were spending? Let me know. Are you currently working them? Did you work them in the past? Do you want to work them? Did you have good success? Did you have bad success? All of the above. I'm going to coach through here today on internet leads. Now, what I'm teaching on today is stuff we've actually utilized. We used to, when I was running my sales team, we generated internet leads at a very high level. We also spent a ton of money, about, I don't know, 8 to 10 grand a month on internet leads. So it was a big investment, and we had to have systems in place for making sure that we were getting a return on our investment, because it was a big chunk of money going out every single month. So we're going to talk through this today on what I feel are some good practices. I don't know everything, of course, but I'm going to just share with you from my personal experience, from the experience of my team, from the experience of what we did to make this thing work, to make it have a pretty good ROI, because that's the nice thing. You can have a pretty good return on your investment if you work internet leads. So let's talk through it. Looks like here, Vince, I did all of that. Ha ha ha. Yeah, exactly, Vince. That's for sure. It's we've all done that, right? Trial and error until we figure it out. And worked them in the past. Sherry never worked for me. Cost me more than I made. That happens a lot too. We're going to talk through some systems here today to make sure that doesn't happen. I've had success, but need to get back to it. Yes, Elise also said she worked them, or I was looking forward to working with them. Stopped, but willing to dive back into it, but not confident about it. Yeah, okay, cool. So good. So we've got a wide range of people that have maybe tried it, maybe kind of, put their toes in the water on it. And maybe some had success, some didn't. Maybe some had some success and then stopped. Let's talk through it though. Let's go through how to get a system in place for converting internet leads. Now, here's the first thing I want to share with you. The internet lead, an average consumer, I think this is important to understand the mentality of the consumer. The average consumer spends 11 hours researching online before making a major purchase. So think about that. The average, and this is just anything. This isn't just a house. This is a statistic from an internet buyer buying anything. Could be a car, could be a furniture, could be anything, right? But the average consumer spends 11 hours researching online before making a major purchase. Something to keep in mind too, when you get an internet lead, this lead is not only coming to your website. They're coming to your website. They're probably going to Zillow. They're probably going to 10 other different websites, realtor.com, homes.com. They're going to hit another agent's website. Maybe they Googled and typed in realtors at the Lake of the Ozarks, and they find other agents' websites. So just because they came to your website does not mean they're not on 10 other websites as well. So keep that in mind. I think that's super important to know that, one, the average consumer is spending a lot of time before making a major purchase, which means we have to have a nurture process in place to be able to follow up with these people and stay in touch with them, and not just rely on calling one time and then say, no, they didn't call me back. I guess they're not interested. They are interested. They're just maybe not ready because they haven't spent enough time doing research. And then keep in mind too, they're not just on your website. So they're not loyal to you because they don't know you yet. Just because they're on your website looking at homes does not mean they're not looking at other places. So let's talk about the math. I think with internet leads, it's super important to understand the math, because what I often hear agents say is, oh, I tried internet leads, it didn't work, they were all junk. All right, who's ever thought that? Who's ever heard it? Who's ever thought it? Who's ever experienced it? Here's the reality of the situation. A lot of your internet leads are going to be junk. And so I want you to look at this right here. 3 to 5% is our target close. That was always our target percentage for closing internet leads, was 3 to 5%. If I closed 5%, we were crushing it. If we closed 5% of leads, we were crushing it. Now, keep in mind with leads too, what I want to say before I dive into these next things is that not all leads are created equal. And what I mean by that is that with internet leads, a Facebook internet lead. So you could go into your KV Core Bold Trail account right now. You can click on the listings. You can select a listing, make sure you have permission to use it or utilize your own listing, and then you can click boost. And you can spend, I think it's $69, and that's going to generate you 10 to 12 leads. So on average, let's just say that internet lead, it's very simple to do. And by tomorrow, you're going to be getting internet leads coming right into your system, into your CRM. Now, that's a cost-effective lead, in my opinion. That's about a $5 lead. So that's a $5 lead that is on average, generally. Now, some ads are going to perform better, some worse, but on average, what we see with that lead spend within KV Core Bold Trail is about $5 a lead. It's a cheap lead. A Zillow lead, depending on your zip code, might cost, I don't know, $100 or $400 or $600, depending on the zip code. Now, what I will say there is that a Zillow lead should be further along in the buying process than a $5 Facebook internet lead, because they're actually requesting information to go see a property. So if they're requesting information to go see a property, chances are they've already spent time looking at areas and school districts and things of that nature. And now they're ready to go physically look at a home. So they're probably further along in the buying cycle than a $5 internet lead. So let's keep that in mind, that leads are different, right? We can't treat all leads the same because they're in the different cycle of the buying process. Now, let's go back to my reference of the $5 internet lead. So when we were running internet leads at a high level, we ran a lot of ads through our CRM here. We also had a separate site set up through Real Geeks. I'm not saying go do this, but I'm just telling you what we did through Real Geeks. It's a separate CRM website that we generated a lot of Google pay-per-click leads from that. And now, and so over time, the Google pay-per-click can turn into organic leads, which means leads are just hitting your website organically. So there's different ways to generate internet leads. But what I found, the numbers tend to be pretty similar when it comes to that internet lead. And what I mean by that is that 3 to 5% is our target closed. So if I spend, let's just say hypothetically, I go into my KV Core Bold Trail and I spend $500 this month on internet leads through Facebook. I'm going to generate on average 100 leads, $5 a lead. Now, 80 of those are going to be garbage. Of the 100 leads that I generate, 80 are going to be garbage. They're going to be terrible. And so it's going to have a bad phone number, a bad email. It's going to have fake information. It's going to have no information, maybe. It's going to have, I don't know, something just, bad words in the name. We've seen it all, right? You're going to get Mickey Mouse. You're going to get whatever. So I need to now sift through 80 of those leads that are going to be garbage. So it's going to be some time. It's going to take a little bit of time for me to do this, but I'm going to have to sift through all those junk leads to get to maybe 15% or so that will be looking to buy or sell in the next 12 to 18 months. So out of my 100 leads, 80 are going to be garbage. 15 will do something at some point in the future. I often say a new internet lead is generally 12 to 18 months away from purchasing a home. So we have to have a really good follow-up system in place. So 15 leads will be looking to do something in the next 12 to 18 months. They will most likely buy or sell a home. It's a question of when they do it and with whom they do it with. And if you're the person that has a system in place to follow up with these leads, the chances are high that it will be you when the time comes. And then 3 to 5 are going to be ready to go now. So this is why so many people say internet leads don't work, because it is a grind. It does take effort. It's a high volume of calls. It's sifting through a lot of junk leads to get to the good ones. But here's what I look at. If I spent $500 a month on internet leads and I generated, let's say, roughly 100 leads, and I closed 2 from that, and I made, let's say, $8,000 per commission, so I made $16,000 on my $500 spend plus my time, because you are going to have to put a lot of time into this. Is it worth it? And the answer is probably yes. Now, I know some people are like, oh, that seems far-fetched or whatever. It's a very accurate, real number. You can, even if you close one, and you made $7,000 or $8,000 or $10,000, depending on the price point or more, would it be worth it? Absolutely, it would be. The thing here, though, is we have to know the math and not get frustrated when the bulk of the leads coming in are what we call garbage, right? So we have to sift through all the junk leads to get to the good ones and have a system in place to be able to follow up with those people, to be able to convert them, to get them to go buy a home with us. So I think it's really important. I like going over this slide because I think it's important to know the math, that not all of these leads are going to be great. And it is a process and it's effort, and you have to make a lot of phone calls, and you have to have a system in place to make this work. So Let's talk about the best days to contact and qualify internet leads. Statistically, there are studies out there from MIT and other Ivy League type universities, so on and so forth, that have done a lot of studies. Harvard does studies on this as well, but they say statistically Wednesdays and Thursdays are the best days to call in order to contact and qualify leads. So in order to reach out and contact them and qualify them, Wednesday and Thursday. They say Thursday is the best day to contact a lead in order to qualify that lead, meaning we're going to try to get some additional information from that lead. So Thursdays are the best days, and Mondays are the worst days to call. Why do we think Monday would be the worst day to call? Well, because people are just getting back to work on Monday. Chances are maybe a lot of people, depending on their job, they shut down on Friday. They didn't look at any emails or voicemails or anything like that. Saturday, Sunday, they open up, they get into work on Monday with an inbox full of emails. They're busy. So Monday statistically is the worst day to contact and qualify leads. Thursday being the best. So if I was generating internet leads, I might look to time block my time and focus my time on calling my leads a little bit later in the week, and maybe not making Monday a heavy lead contact day. So best times to call: 4 to 6 is the best time to call, make contact with the lead. 4 to 6 p.m. 8 to 9 and 4 to 5 are the best times to qualify leads. So what I would say on this too is, when I was generating a lot of expireds for sale by owners, it was always 8 a.m. I would call between 8 and 9, usually about 8 and 10 every single day. 8 to 9 is a really good time frame to call internet leads as well as FSBOs expireds. Later in the day is also a fantastic time. We used to do a lot of evening call sessions, 4 to 6, 4 to 7, making calls. Another really good day to make contact with leads is Saturday mornings. So we used to do a lot of, every week for a couple of years, we would come in on Saturday mornings back in the day and make calls. So again, Saturday mornings can be fantastic. Morning timeframes, evening timeframes are great. 1 to 2 p.m. is statistically the worst time of day to contact and qualify a lead. Coming after lunch, they're wrapped up in meetings, whatever the case may be. 1 to 2, not a good time to call. The reason I bring this up is because I think there's some importance here of figuring out where we're putting this time into our calendar, where we're going to consistently call these leads that we're spending money on. Because when we make the decision to pay for internet leads, we're making a financial investment in ourselves and in our business, and we have to have a system set up to make sure we're doing absolute best we can to generate the best return possible. So let's talk about some mistakes realtors make when working internet leads. Slow response time is the number one mistake. Slow response time. Rapid response time is very important. The odds of contacting a lead if called within 5 minutes versus 30 minutes drops 100x. So what does that mean? It means we need to call these leads quickly. If a lead comes in, we have to have a system in place set up, or maybe they're getting a text sent to them, an email. It's alerting us to call them. We pick up the phone and call them immediately. Rapid response is important. Keep in mind, as I mentioned on my first slide there, they're not just coming to your website. So just because that internet lead hit your site doesn't mean they're only staying on your website. Chances are they're on other websites, and if other agents are calling them quickly, they have a much better chance of converting the lead than you do. So mistake number one is slow response time. I'll get to it when I get done. I'll call them tomorrow. Call them right away. The faster you call them, the greater the probability of you connecting with that lead and converting that lead. Mistake number two, no defined follow-up process. So we've made the decision now to spend the money on the leads, and we have no system in place to follow up. So we have no defined follow-up process. There's nothing set up in our CRM. There's nothing, there's no plan in place. It's literally just, I'll just try to call them once, and if they don't call me back, well, they're ghosting me. I tried to call them 2 times, or I connected with that lead. We had a good conversation, and now they won't call me back. All right, how many times does that happen to people? Happens all the time. We're going to talk about why it's important, though, to continue to follow up. So mistake number two, no defined follow-up process. Mistake number three, only relying on one form of communication. Lead comes in, I try to call them all the time. They don't answer their phone. Maybe it's a bad phone number. And I say, bad phone number, I'm not going to do anything with that lead. I need to email them. I need to text them if the phone number is good. All right. Who would I talk to about putting an automated follow-up in Bold Trail? That would be me and Leo. Vince, we can help you with that. I'm going to run through a system that we used, and we're going to work on getting it into Bold Trail for everybody. And you can make edits and tweaks to it. So we're hoping to have that in by the end of the week. So we can definitely, yeah, talk you through that, Vince, and we're going to get one set up here for everybody that they can use. So we'll talk through you more with that offline as well. So only relying on one form of communication is mistake number 3. Mistake number 4, they quit too soon. Quit too soon. What does that mean? That means sometimes we can have an excellent conversation with a lead today, and everything went well. We got their criteria. We know they said they're about 6 months out from wanting to purchase. Generally, what I'd like to do too, if they say they're 6 months out, you usually cut that time frame in half, because chances are they're about half the time frame they really tell you. So if they say I'm a year out, they're 6 months out. If I'm 6 months out, they're 3 months out. But let's just say I had a really good conversation with the lead today, and then I called them back a week later and they don't answer their phone. And then I call them back a month later and they don't answer their phone. Then I call them back another couple of weeks, they don't answer. And then I call them 5 or 6 or 7 times and they don't call me back. What do most people do? But maybe they're still coming on my website and looking at homes. Well, a lot of people say, oh, they're ghosting me. They don't want to work with me. I must have made them upset, whatever the case may be. And they quit. They quit calling them. You didn't upset them. You didn't make any mistakes. You didn't make them mad. All it is they're not ready to talk to you. So when they're ready to talk to you, they will pick up the phone and answer. So I'm going to give you an example of, God, I always butcher his name, but years ago, Ben Esteban, I believe. I talked to this guy. First, lead came in. I called him right away. We had a good conversation. He said, yeah, we're not sure what we're going to do. This or that. Well, I said, okay, that's fantastic. Well, if you were to move, where would you want to move to? He gave me his criteria, so on and so forth. I set him up on a home search, and then I follow up with people every 30 days, and I'll explain later why. But every 30 days, I make a follow-up call. Hey, just checking in. I know you said you're a year out, or you're not really sure what you're going to do. I just wanted to make sure you're getting the homes I'm sending to you, and wanted to see if you wanted me to make any changes to that home search. He doesn't answer. I call him month 2, leave a voicemail. Doesn't answer. I call him month 3, doesn't answer. I think it was like month 9. He picked up the phone and said, yeah, we're not sure. We might move out of the country. I appreciate you sending the houses. I am getting them. We're looking at it. If we do stay local, those are the areas we'll want to move to. No problem. Followed up for like another, I can't remember. It was a long time. It was close to 2 years. Never answered the phone. All right. But at month, like maybe it was 18 or 20. I can't remember exactly. It was years ago. He picked up the phone and said, hey, Mike, thanks for staying in touch. Yeah, we're ready to buy a house. I had a team member, Ryan, I linked Ryan up with him. Ryan went out, sold him a house. I met Ben at closing. It was closing in our office. And he said, hey, the reason I stuck with you is because you followed up. So with my follow-up there, Ben only answered the phone 3 times over the course of, call it, 2-year period. And I left, for me, all I did was I left, 18 to 20 voicemails, talked to him 3 times, but left 18 to 20 voicemails or so on or so forth, whatever the time was, over a 2-year period. So for me, it was like a few minutes, 30 seconds of my time once a month, leaving a voicemail. He was still looking at homes on my website. And because of that, it turned into a closed transaction. He bought a $275,000 house, some $300,000 house, something like that. But it didn't take a ton of my time, but I just had a system in place that alerted me to make sure I followed up. And then when Ben wasn't calling me back, I made sure I continued to call. And so my key here is don't quit. We all have stories, team members of mine from the past, everyone has stories of how we didn't stop calling and eventually that person ended up buying from us. So my rule of thumb here is unless they pick up the phone and say, quit calling me, then continue to call. Even if they're not answering, just leave a voicemail. That's all my voicemail ever is too. After I connect and have a conversation, I figure out what their criteria is. My voicemail to them and my text message to them is simple. Hey, it's Michael. I know when we spoke last month, you said you were still a year out from wanting to purchase a home. I just want to make sure you're getting the homes I'm sending and wanted to see if there have been any changes to your time frame. That's it. So I'm acknowledging, one, that I heard them and them telling me they're a year out. So I'm not just calling a month later and saying, hey, just checking in. You ready to buy a house? No, you idiot. I told you I was a year out, right? That's what they think. So I acknowledge the fact of what their time frame was. I asked them, are you getting the homes I'm sending? And would you like me to make any changes? So it's a very simple voicemail. And I also send that in the form of a text. And they're not going to respond, but they're not going to respond because they're not ready. Another example, I bought a car not too long ago, a few months ago, and sales guy kept calling me. I went in, test drove one. I didn't call him back for like a month or 2. He called me 4 or 5 times over the course of 2 months. I just ignored him. I knew I was ignoring him. I wasn't ready to buy the car. When I was ready to buy the car, I picked up, hey, Ron, yep, ready to go. Let's go. So keep that in mind. People are not going to answer the phone if they're not ready. When they're ready, they're going to answer the phone. It's your job. It's not your job to get them to answer the phone. It's your job to make sure They remember you when they are ready to buy a house. And the way they will remember you is because you're following up with them. So don't quit. That's the biggest mistake agents make, is they quit too soon. So let's look at our follow-up process. Okay, follow-up process day one. This is what we will put in Bold Trail for you, and you can tweak it, you can change it, you can do whatever you want with it. You can just use it the way it's set up. This is what we use though. So follow-up process day one, internet lead comes in, hits my website. We call them immediately. We use the new internet lead script. You can go to networkglobalagents.com, go to the quick start guide, download our script book there. All of our internet lead scripts are in there. So immediate phone call, calling right away. If they don't answer, we leave a voicemail. Immediate text, hi, whatever their name is. I saw you're browsing real estate listings. Are you actively shopping for a specific type of property or looking for something particular? Something to that effect goes out. Email gets out 1 hour after the lead signs up. An email gets sent out automatically. And then we set up a task to set up a property alert. So we get a task that alerts us to set up a property alert for this lead. Now, if we haven't connected with this lead, we don't know where specifically they're looking at. But what we can do is look on our website and look at what homes they clicked on. So if they were clicking on homes in Chesterfield and homes in Wildwood, I would probably set up a search in Chesterfield and Wildwood for them. I would make the criteria very broad because I don't know what they're looking for. If they're looking at $500,000 houses, I might set up a search ranging from like 350 to 800 grand, because I want them to get a lot of properties for me. And we know right now with the inventory locally in St. Louis, there's not a lot of available homes, not a lot of inventory. So you can set that search criteria pretty wide. And then once you've connected with them, you can go in and really kind of formalize or finalize that search criteria to match specifically what they told you they want. Now, if I did connect with the lead and I had a conversation with them, my whole process I'm about to share with you would stop. So keep that in mind. This process stops after you connect with this lead. And then once I connect with the lead, if they're not ready to buy yet, I take really good notes on my phone conversation. And then I'm calling them every 38 days, or excuse me, every 30 days. I have a follow-up task set up that I set up in Bold Trail to alert me every 30 days to follow up with them. If they tell me they're a year out. Now, if they're hot, ready to go, I'm ready to buy tomorrow, well, then of course I'm following up. I'm setting up on home search. I'm sending them listings every day. I'm getting them pre-approved. We're getting out and looking at houses. So buyer consultation, buyer agency agreement, get them out and look at houses. So keep that in mind. This process I'm going to share with you though is if they're not answering their phone. So the immediate text goes out automatically. The email goes out automatically. I have 2 tasks. I need to call them and I need to set up a property alert. Day 2, I'm going to call them again and an auto text gets sent out. Let me know how we can best help you. Are you a first-time home buyer, seasoned investor, simply browsing real estate market, or exploring your options to buy or sell? Very simple. That's my day 2 process right there. All it is I'm calling, I'm leaving a voicemail, and the text goes out automatically. Day 3, I'm going to make a phone call again. I'm going to send this auto text, which will go out automatically. And then my email goes out. If you own a property in the area, we have a fantastic tool that will let you check out and see what it might sell for in today's market. Just click here to check it out. That is the seller evaluation tool that is on all of your websites through KB Core Bold Trail. So it links there. If they click on it, you get alerted of that as well. So you know they clicked on the email that you sent. So keep that in mind. But again, these 2 are automated. My phone call is manual. Got to pick up the phone and call. Day 4, just a phone call, leave a voicemail. Hey, just checking in. I'm trying to get a hold of you. Want to see if you're still interested in buying a home. Something of that nature. Very simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Again, look at the script book for different voicemails and things of that nature to leave as well. Day 5, phone call again, email, automated email, phone call. Now, people might be like, oh my God, you call this person, what, 5 times in 5 days? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to call this person until they tell me to quit calling them, or they say, yeah, we're ready to buy, we're ready to sell, we're not interested. Whatever the case may be, my process here is to gauge a response. That's all I want is a response. They tell me, quit being annoying, don't ever call me again. That's fine. I'm going to remove them from my database and follow up on the people that need help. Totally fine. So don't be alerted or alarmed like, oh my God, this seems like a lot. It's actually really simple because a lot of it's automated. All we're doing really is picking up the phone and calling them. And we want that response. I would rather somebody tell me, stop calling me, than to sit in my database and I call them a year from now and say, hey, you signed up on my website a year ago. Just checking in to see if you're still in the market. Oh yeah, we just bought a house last week. Oh yeah, we just closed on a house. Oh, we're under contract right now. That happens all the time. If you have old leads in your database, go call them. Go call all the old leads in your database today and let me know how many ended up buying a home already or under contract or are actively looking with another agent. It's going to be a lot. We take old, what we call dead leads, and I would call through those all the time in the past. Hey, just checking in. You signed up on our website a year ago. I was curious, are you still in the market or did you end up purchasing a home? Oh, yeah, we bought one 4 months ago. The leads in there from our team member said, oh, they're not interested in buying a home. Or, yeah, we're actually under contract right now. Or, it happens all the time. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in our databases of lost commissions because we didn't be assertive enough to follow up. So keep that in mind. Don't let this scare you that, oh my God, this is so much. It's not. It's actually really simple because the bulk of it's automated. So day 6, phone call, text. How's your home search going? Blah, 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 right? So there we go. Text is firing off on day 6. Day 7, phone call, email. Again, automated. Day 8, text going out. Day 9, nothing. Take day 9 off. But keep in mind, leads come in at different days, so you're still probably going to have follow-ups to do with other leads. So this is just for one specific lead. On day 9, we're going to leave them alone, give them a day off from us. And day 10, I'm going to call them again. Hey, just checking in. Wanted to see, trying to get a hold of you. Want to make sure you're getting the houses I'm sending. All right. Day 12, 11 takes off. Day 12, I think that's right. Yep. Day 12, we're going to start spanning out the days now a little bit. I'm going to send listings via text through our CRM. So what does that mean? I can go into the listings section and I can identify, go into my Bold Trail, KV Core Bold Trail account, go to the listings section. I can click on listings that I think might be a good fit for this person based on what homes they're looking at on my site. And I can text those directly from the system to them. Hey, just found this property. I thought it might be a good fit for you. Let me know if you're interested in taking a look at it. So I'm going to text a listing or listings via text through our system to them. Day 14, email goes out. Again, linking to our website to give them a market report, another thing that they might click on and use. Day 20, a text goes out. So day 20, text message goes out. Day 21, this is where if you have a team, at day 21, we put all of our leads that have not been contacted into a pond account, which is basically like a general population account. So if you're a solo agent, I would leave this lead in your system, obviously, but if you have a team, it basically goes into a general population account where it's a free-for-all for any agents on the team to call. So any agents on the team can go in and start calling these leads. It's fair game. If they convert it, it's their lead. So agent 1, whose pipeline this was in, did not convert or make contact with this lead. It goes into a general population account. All the agents can go into that, start calling. If a different agent, agent number 2, converts it, it's their lead. Agent 1 gets nothing. So that's the way it works when we had our team running. But that's something to keep in mind too with a team. Maybe somebody else will have better luck converting this lead. But if you don't have a team, just keep them in your pipe, keep following up. Day 25, email goes out. Day 35, text goes out. Day 50, email goes out. Day 75, email. So what I'm doing here too is, as you can see, after about 20 days, we really slow down the process. At that point too, I'm doing every 30-day follow-up call. So every 30 days, I'm following up. Now, if I'm getting like 500 new leads a month or some crazy volume, then I probably won't be able to keep up with all of those. But if I'm generating, let's say 30 to 40 leads a month, I should be able to call all of those at least once every 30 days after my 3-week kind of like massive blitz to try to get a hold of them. So we put a lot of pressure in the first 21 days to make contact with these people. If we don't, the process slows down and it kind of reverts back to letting some emails go. And then every month, I'm just checking in to see if I can get a hold of them. So keep that in mind. So if you have questions on this as well, let me know. But we will put this system in Bold Trail. You all have access to it here in a few days that you can apply the system to start utilizing it. Let's talk about some scripting. So scripting, this is going to be important because here's what's going to happen. Every lead, not every, the bulk of the leads you call are going to say, I'm just looking. I'm not interested. I'm just looking. All right. It's the whole thing of I'm just looking. It's when we go to the department store. Let's say we go into Macy's or whatever to buy shoes, and we know we're there, and somebody says, "Hey, may I help you?" Oh no, I'm just looking. You know you're there to buy shoes most of the time, unless you're like in a hurry. You need to get to the thing and like get those shoes put on and get the heck out of there. But most of the time, if we're there, we're gonna look around a little bit. Once we commit and we're finally ready to try the shoes on, then we ask for help. It's the same way with internet leads. Most of these leads, keep in mind, 12 to 18 months, the bulk of them from purchasing. And so they're going to say, I'm just looking. Oh, no, I was just curious. I just saw that listing. I thought it was interesting. I'm just curious. So a lot of times you're going to get, I'm just looking, or I'm not interested. So my script is simple. Hi, this is Michael with Network Global Real Estate. I'm reaching out because you viewed some homes on our website, and I wanted to see how soon you're looking to be in your new home. Oh, I'm just looking. I'm not interested. Totally understand you're not interested. And if we could find you the perfect home, would you consider it? Now, a lot of times they're going to be like, yeah, maybe, because chances are they are interested. They're just not ready to commit to working with you, which is fine. So if they say yes, great. Tell me a little bit more about what that perfect home looks like for you. So what do I want to get there? I want to start getting some information from them. How many bedrooms do they need? How many bathrooms? What type of home? Ranch, 2-story, story and a half. What area? Is school district important? What price range? Right? I want to ask those questions. And I'm asking those questions. Tell me a little bit more about what that perfect home looks like. Oh, I don't know. We'd really like to be in Chesterfield. Okay, fantastic. Chesterfield's a great area. How many bedrooms would you need? 4 bedrooms. Okay, what's important about 4 bedrooms? Right, I'm repeating and affirming back and asking more questions to, one, soften the call to get in rapport. So I'm not just zinging questions at them. Hey, what area are you looking for? Chesterfield. How many bedrooms? 4. What's the price? 150. How soon do you need to be there? Right, that's an interrogation. I don't want this call to sound like an interrogation. I want it to sound like a natural call, like I'm speaking to a friend. Tell me a little bit more about that. Oh, that's interesting. What's important about that school district? Things of that nature. Right, so I'm going to ask those questions. Then I'm going to say, if we were able to find a home that matches all of that criteria you provided me with, would it be something you'd be interested in purchasing? And chances are they're going to say yes. All right, fantastic. Have you spoken with a lender? So have you spoken with a lender? So this is another thing. If they say that, I'd love to introduce ourselves and our lender, because I want to know too, how far into the buying process are they? Oh yeah, we already spoken to our bank. We're pre-approved. That's a more serious buyer than somebody's like, no, we haven't, we're still probably a year out, whatever the case may be. I still want them to talk to my lender without pushing or losing the contact. So I would say something to the effect of, have you spoken with a mortgage lender yet? If yes, hey, fantastic. I'd love the opportunity to introduce myself to your lender to see if, if they need any additional information or things of that nature, right? If no, which a lot of them maybe no, I actually work closely with Rory Leach or whoever your lender is, a branch manager with USA Mortgage, and I'd love to connect you. He's actually got a lot of experience with first-time homebuyers, veterans, conventional loans. When would be a good time for him to reach out to you? And now maybe they say, well, we're not ready to do that. Totally understand. This is no cost. This is one I really like to use. This is no cost and no obligation to you whatsoever. It'll only take about 10 minutes, and it's going to provide you with more information on the different loan programs available to you, as well as how much purchasing power you have. So that's something where you can get them to speak to a lender, no cost, no obligation. But again, I wouldn't push this and oversell it. If they're pushing back, they're like, yeah, no, we're not ready for somebody to pull our credit. Yeah, totally get it. That's absolutely fine. Let's do this. I'm just going to send you over his info so you have it in the event you want to speak to him. So don't push it and try to oversell. Well, you need to talk to my lender. Or if they have a lender, don't try to push your own lender. Yeah, my aunt's my lender. We're already pre-approved. Fantastic. Love the opportunity to reach out and introduce myself to your aunt. So again, of course, we want our lenders and our vendor partners. We're always trying to give them business, but don't lose the sale trying to push a vendor partner that maybe this lead is not interested in. So then I want to find out in my call, out of curiosity, are you going to be a first-time home buyer, or would you have a home you'll need to sell prior to purchasing? So why would I want to know that? Because if they have a home that they need to sell prior to buying a new one, my whole script needs to change, and I need to go into seller servicing mode here. I need to help them now get a home sold. So that way, we need to get that done before they can buy a house. So I want to know that. Out of curiosity, you're a first-time home buyer, or we have a home you'll need to sell? No, yeah, we're a first-time home buyer. We're actually renting. Or no, we're not a first-time home buyer, but we already sold our house. We're in an apartment. We're staying with our in-laws. We're staying with my parents, whatever the case may be. And then we're going to be purchasing a home. So I want to find out, do they have anything they need to sell prior to buying? So if they say, yes, we need to sell, I shift my script. Are you familiar with what your home might be worth in the market today? No, we're not sure. We haven't looked. Well, here's what I'd like to do. I'd be more than happy to put a market analysis together for you. And just, I'm actually going to be in, if I know what area they live in, I'm going to be in the area tomorrow. I'd love to just stop, drop that by. It'll only take about 10 minutes or so, and I can give you an estimate, an approximate value of what we could sell your home for in the market today. You could potentially set listing appointments from internet leads, which I think is very important that a lot of people lose sight of. It's also important to pick up on those things too. A lot of people, when they first start working internet leads, they're a little shaky on scripts and they're not listening for things like that. When they say, yeah, we have to sell our home first, we're so focused on setting the buyer consultation, we lose sight that this is also somebody that needs to sell a home prior to buying. So keep that in mind. Now, if they don't have a home to sell, what I'd like to do is set up a time for us to get together to tell you a little bit more about myself and my team and what we do to help you find the perfect home. Would this evening work? Would tomorrow be better? Oh, no, I don't know if I'm ready for that. No, totally get it. All this is I find that a lot of times if we spend a little bit of time at the beginning of the process, I'm actually going to save a lot of your time because I'm going to fully understand what's important to you in your next home. I'm going to get out and start previewing homes on your behalf, and I'm going to eliminate any properties that don't match exactly what you're looking for. So here's something we could do too. I'd be more than happy. I could send you a Zoom link and we could do a quick Zoom call. And that way I can just really get a really good idea of what's important to you in your next home. How does that sound? So don't be afraid to do a buyer consultation via Zoom. We shifted to this during COVID, right? Generally, the rule of thumb was always get them into your office, show that you're a professional, you've got a legitimate place of business, so on and so forth. Zoom works really well too. People might not want to drive 30 minutes to your office. They might not want to, it's cold out, it's snowing out, whatever the case may be. Don't be afraid to lean on Zoom. We did tons and tons of appointments during COVID and still do today via Zoom. So keep that in mind. Zoom might be a good way to do it. I'm going to text you my contact information as well as send you an email with all my info. Is the email you signed up with, whatever their email is, the correct email for you? Yes, it is. So that's my opening script there, basically. Now, off market, let's talk about some objection type handlers or ways to get them hooked, because sometimes they might be like, oh, no, I'm kind of working with an agent. Working with an agent, hey, that's fantastic. You're working with an agent. Have you signed a buyer agency agreement with that agent? No, it's just somebody we met at an open house. They're sending us some properties. That's fantastic that an agent, now, if they signed a buyer agency agreement, stop, right? Don't be unethical. Don't go out and sign. But if they didn't sign a buyer agency agreement, they're not legally working with anyone, right? They're just using that as an excuse to not potentially work with you. So, because maybe we haven't shown them enough value yet. So what I would say is something to the effect is, that's fantastic. There's an agent, I understand you have not signed any paperwork with an agent, and it's fantastic they're sending you properties. Out of curiosity, are they sending you any off-market homes? They're going to say, what's that? See, we actually have access to homes that are not currently listed for sale. Our team's talked with these potential sellers, and they have indicated they do not want to formally list their home, and they would consider selling if the right buyer came along. Now, you could be that buyer. I can get you access to these homes that no other buyers know about and get you first shot at them. Is that something you may be interested in learning more about? So, what is an off-market property? It can be a lot of things. If you do circle prospecting, you're making circle calls and calling around neighborhoods and things like that. Keep in mind, with the new rulings that came out, you don't call anybody on the do not call list. I would not use an auto dialer anymore. You can hand dial people, but also off-market property, circle prospecting, calling around neighborhoods to see if people would be interested in selling. We used to do this at a very high level for many years. And so we had a large database of potential people that expressed interest in wanting to sell but weren't ready to formally list. So what we would do is we could match our buyers with those potential sellers, get them access to homes before they hit the market. Therefore, they're not competing in multiple offer situations. It could be a really good deal. Now, for some sellers, that's not the best deal because they want to get the most money for the home. And so they want to go to the market strategy and get as many offers as possible. But for other sellers, they're like, yeah, I just want to get rid of this thing. I don't want to do all this work to get it ready to go. I don't want to deal with all the showings. I have 4 kids, whatever the case may be. So maybe off market. So keep that in mind. Off markets could be through circle dials. They could also be through the office exclusive in our MLS. They could also be you going back and looking at cancels and expireds and calling those sellers directly, or look at withdrawals and call that agent and see if that seller would still be interested in selling their home if the right buyer came along. So you do have access to off-market properties. Expireds, cancels, withdrawals are all examples of that. Now, they might say, how do you have access to this? So just like I'm talking to you now, I talk to hundreds of sellers every single week as well. A good amount of these sellers say if the right buyer came along, they would sell, but they're not interested in putting their home on the market. We can actually match you with one of these sellers to get you into the house. Therefore, you're not competing in multiple offers, so on and so forth. So now I'd say I'd like to meet with you for 10 or 15 minutes to go over exactly what the perfect property looks like for you and talk a little bit more about each home buying process. Now, here's the thing. These people talk to a lot of agents, very few throughout the off market, because very few agents even know what an off market property is. So they don't have access to off markets. But use it as a hook to kind of create some curiosity, because a lot of buyers will say when we use this script, they'll be like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, tell me more about that. All right, so keep in mind, you do have access to off markets, expireds, cancels, withdrawals. If you circle prospect, if you door knock, there's potential people you talk to that might be interested in selling. All right, so keep that in mind. Now, if they say something to the effect of, well, I don't have time to meet, can you just send me those off market properties? Completely understand you don't have time to meet, and I know your time is valuable, and that's exactly why we should meet. May I explain? So again, I used this earlier, but here's the thing. Many of our clients find that if we spend just 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of the process, I'm actually going to save a lot of your time because I'm going to fully understand what's important to you in your next home. And I'm going to spend my time previewing homes on your behalf, eliminating the ones that don't match exactly what you're looking for. That would save you some time, wouldn't it? Well, yeah, it sounds like it would. I'm sure you know of someone or heard of someone that's looked at 20 or even 50 homes before they found the right one, haven't you? Yeah, my aunt looked at 50. Well, I want to make sure that doesn't happen to you. And I'm confident after we meet, I'm going to be able to find the perfect home for you without having to use up a lot of your time. Does that sound good? Yeah, it does. Perfect. When would be a good time for us to meet? So, two things there. I am wanting to save their time. I'm also wanting to save my own time. So when early on in my career, when I would not do buyer consultations or wouldn't really figure out what was important to my clients in their home, I would end up showing them a ton of property. When I started getting good at doing a sit down with them and going through the process and explaining the process and figuring out what they absolutely must have in a home, I ended up showing 5 or 6 homes then and selling them, sometimes less. So keep that in mind. That's very important. When we don't understand what's important, we just show them everything. And that's where I even showed a client the same house one time that they weren't interested in because they would send me like 10 houses. I would just set the appointments. I would go out and show them houses. There was one time we rolled up to a house they weren't interested in for the second time. And I pulled up and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're here again. Because they sent it to me by accident. I didn't pay attention. I just scheduled the appointments and went and showed them. And so that was when I was just opening doors for people. I had no value. I wasn't trying to understand what's important to them in the home. I was just opening doors because I was so excited to have a client that, I didn't have a process in place. So keep that in mind. Setting a buyer consultation is going to be very important. Now, some people will be like, well, I don't want to lose them. I don't want to set the buyer consultation and lose them. What I will tell you is I don't want to scare them off. If they buy into the process, the home buying process, which part of that is getting pre-approved, part of that is a buyer consultation, part of that is signing an agency agreement with you. If they buy into the process, like your chances of you closing that person is pretty high. Now, if they're just calling every realtor out there and you're sending them houses and they're like, well, if you find the right property, I'll use you. They're not buying into the process. You're going to end up spending a lot of your time and generally not making a whole lot of money. So keep that in mind. Let them buy into the process. Give them a process to buy into. Now, I want to wait until later in the year. We can't find a home we like. So these are scripts too. Depending on the market, you'll need to tweak. But yeah, there's not a lot of inventory. We're thinking about renting again, or we're waiting for interest rates to go down. Totally understand you want to wait until next year. May I share a concern I have? Interest rates are still relatively low from a historical perspective. And all signs, now last year, all signs are indicating they were going to continue to rise. Right now, they might drop a little bit. So you may need to tweak the script a little bit. But relatively low from a historical perspective. Keep in mind the average interest rate over the life of the mortgage is 8%. That's the average. In the 90s and that, we were in the double digits, last few years, 2021, all that, we were at, 3%. So over the life of the mortgage, 8% is the average rate. So we are still beneath that. Now, we don't know what rates are going to do. Based on our company meetings and the data we pull, a lot of experts are saying that the rates are going to come down, but they could go up more. And so here's an important script to know, I think. Did you know that for every 1% in interest rate rises, you lose about 10% buying power? So if every 1% in interest rate goes up, your buyer is losing 10% purchasing power. So if rates went from 7 to 8, and your buyer was looking at a $500,000 home or approved for 500, their buying power now shifts to 450,000. So here's my thought. If we could find them a home now where we know where rates are, wouldn't it be better to buy a home now rather than waiting until next year with an unforeseen future? We don't know what rates are going to do next year. Maybe they're 5%. Maybe they're 8%. We have no idea, but we do know what rates are today. And if they're in a position to purchase today and they're comfortable with their payment, then why not get out there and go look today? So here's the last one too. Pencil it in. So this is a put off. When they say I need to talk to my husband or wife, that is a put off. It's not a I really need to talk to my husband or wife. So they're saying that because they're not ready to commit to you. So my script to that, if this was a seller, if this works when you're talking to expireds, works when you're talking to FSBOs, works when you're talking to internet leads. hey, you know what? I like everything you have to say. I'm open to meeting with you. Yeah, let me talk to my wife though, or my husband, and I need to make sure. Totally get it. I totally understand you want to talk with your spouse, and I understand you want your spouse to be part of this process, and I definitely want them to be part of the process as well. Now, hypothetically, if your spouse was on board, would a weekend or weekday work best? Well, usually we're both off work on the weekend, so that's good. Great. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't I just pencil something in for, say, Saturday at 10 or Saturday at 2, whatever my script says here. And after you talk to your spouse, if you need to reschedule, just give me a call back. Does that sound good? Because here's what's going to happen. If they say, well, let me talk to my wife and call me back, and you say, yep, cool, sounds good, they're not going to call you back, or the probability is pretty low. If I pencil it in, though, for one, I'm not asking them to formally commit. It's in pencil, right? It's not like a hard set date. It's in pencil. And then if it doesn't work out after you talk to your spouse, just give me a call back and we can reschedule. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Perfect. I'm going to put you down for Saturday at 10 or 2, whatever time we pick. I'm going to send them a calendar invite. I'm going to text them my information. I'm going to send them an email. And I'm planning on having an appointment. Now, if they call me back and reschedule, that's fine. But most of the time they don't. Most of the time they will show up for that appointment. So, but if I wait for them and say, yeah, just call me back once you talk to your wife, those are the ones that tend to not happen. So keep that in mind. The penciled in script works really well for setting appointments. So questions on that process. I kind of flew through that, but keep in mind, go to networkglobalagents.com, pull the internet lead scripts. They're all there. There's tons of them, tons of objection handlers. What I find is that if you can get your script process down and you can get your follow-up system in place, you can have a really good business from generating internet leads. It's work. It's not easy. There's a lot of rejection. All right. So you have to be prepared for that. But if you're prepared to go generate, say, 50 leads a month and know that the bulk of them are not going to respond to you, they're not going to answer, it's going to be bad information, and you're prepared to follow up, reach out to people, stay in touch, all of that. And Leo just downloaded or put our script book on the link. Thank you. So you can click on that there. But if you're prepared to do that, you can generate a good amount of revenue from internet leads. What I see happen with a lot of agents, though, is they start with too big of a spend, and they start spending $5,000, $10,000 a month or more, and then they get inundated with tons of leads. You don't need a ton of leads. Like I would start small, like go spend $100. All right, go spend $100 and generate, 10, 15, 20 leads, whatever the case may be, and see how you do on it. All right, but keep that in mind. Know the percentages of the bulk of the leads that come in. When it comes to a Facebook lead, a lot of them, 80% will be junk. But I can find enough in there that will do something at some point in the future and that will be ready to go now, that I can make sure I build a really, really sustainable business around working on internet leads. So what I tell people is, if you have the resources and money to do it, make sure you get the system set up before you start spending the money. Make sure you're practicing the scripts and getting really good at making the calls, and not just saying, hey, I saw you were checking out my website. I was curious, you're looking to buy a home. Nope, not interested. Okay, thank you. You're never going to convert like that. You have to be able to overcome objections. You have to be able to overcome. Now, the cool thing about internet leads, just like with expireds and FSBOs and all of that, most of the objections are the same. There's only 4, 5, 6 objections you'll ever really get when working internet leads. So if you get good at overcoming those, you can build a really good business. So for me, having personally done this for many years, I know for a fact internet leads can be a fantastic pillar of business if you're prepared to invest the money, invest the time, and really invest the time in following up, but also invest the time in really getting good at having these conversations. Because I firmly believe that if we know what to say, and that ties into script practice, knowing what to say, and we have enough people to say it to, right? And then we just say it enough times, we can build a massive business. So I first have to know what to say. So I have to be practicing my scripts, getting really good at knowing what to say, sounding good on the phone, not sounding confident, not the uncertainty of the uhs and the yeah, let me set that up. Yeah, I'll send that over. I have to be confident in what I'm saying. So if I know what to say and I'm confident in my delivery on it, and then I have enough people in my database to talk to, and then I'm willing to pick up the phone and have enough conversations, I can build a massive business. And so keep that in mind, not just me, everybody, right? We can all build a massive business if we're prepared to do that. But a couple of things to keep in mind. Make sure, one, financially it makes sense for you to start because it will cost money. And two, make sure you're prepared to call these leads and face the rejection you're going to get, because you're going to get a lot more rejection than the wins, right? You're going to have, if I'm converting 2-3%, that means 97% are going to reject me. But I have to be okay with that because I know that the small percentage that I do convert I can make a really good living from it. So just keep that in mind. I hope that was helpful. If you have questions, that's all we've got for today. And appreciate you all being on. Again, if you have questions, call. If you're watching this later, drop it in the comments, but I'll hang out for a few minutes, grab any questions that you might have. But hopefully it was helpful. Appreciate you all being on, and we'll talk here real soon. Thanks, everybody.